Well, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Go the Distance podcast on your podcast app, YouTube, or Facebook Live. We're so glad that you've joined with us this evening. I'm also thrilled to have in the studio again this week my beautiful bride, Sarah Wilkerson.
Hey, everybody.
And we were together a few weeks ago. We did a two-part series on parenting. And we're going to talk a little bit tonight about marriage. Are you excited?
I am.
All right. So we are right in the middle of a sermon series at Rock Creek Church called #Relationship Goals. And for those of you that may be watching this from a distance, you're not a Rock Creeker, you know, you can always watch us every week, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings, live.rockcreektx.church. Or you can watch us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, or also on our YouTube channel. Just search Rock Creek Church. And we'd love for you to join us on Sunday mornings at 10:30 or at any time that throughout the week or the day that you can watch us. But those of you that attend Rock Creek and you've been here the last few weeks, you know we're right in the middle of a sermon series that is dealing with every relationship under the sun. So we started week 1 with talking about that our horizontal relationships all hinge and all hang on the depth of our vertical relationships. As a matter of fact, I said this statement: the quality of our horizontal relationships depends on the depth of our vertical relationship. And so, week 1, Sarah gave her testimony on the stage about your salvation experience, giving your life to Christ as an adult married woman in ministry. And listen, your story had a huge effect. Even today, you were getting notifications about people who've been watching.
Yeah, just from people who've watched it online, or a friend shared it.
Yeah,
and said that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think the day actually at the church, the day that we did the message together there, we had 7 people say yes to Jesus in that service, and then it continues to resonate. Because the internet's amazing. You can share it with anybody.
Yeah, God is so good.
Yeah. And so he's using that story, and it's a powerful story of how you solidified that vertical relationship that all the horizontal relationships hinge on. And it's just a cool story. So thanks for sharing. And then last week, we started diving into the topic of marriage. We're doing that for 2 weeks. And then we're going to do a week on parenting. And then we're going to wrap the series up the end of October with a sermon on dating and finding the right mate. And so as we dive in this past week, as we were diving into marriage, I thought it'd be good for you and I to get together and talk about marriage. Now, a disclaimer, and you can go ahead and make sure you solidify this or put your rubber stamp on it, is that we do not have a perfect marriage.
That is true.
Even though I'm perfect, it's not a perfect marriage.
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, all the time. Okay. So we don't have a perfect marriage. We are real people with real lives. I'm a pastor. She's a pastor's wife. We don't walk around with halos over our heads all the time. Nope. And we have struggles. We have arguments. And sometimes it can get pretty tense in our house.
God made us people before he put us in ministry.
That's right. That's right. And so we deal with everything that everybody else deals with, and tensions and struggles with. Marriage is beautiful. Is it not?
It is.
It's a wonderful relationship. In fact, I'll say this: marriage is the most amazing of all relationships on planet Earth. But it's also the relationship that takes the most work and sacrifice. Because as wonderful as marriage is, there's still bills to pay. There's still children to feed. There's still children to get to activities every day and school, and then jobs for us and pressures of life on us. So marriage is beautiful.
Yeah, and what was it you said in week 1 of relationship goals? You said that relationships, any kind of relationship, can bring you the greatest joys and the greatest pains.
Yeah, nothing on earth can bring you the greatest joy than relationships, and at the same time, bring you the greatest heartaches.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we were built for relationships. We were created for relationships. God created us because he wanted a relationship with us, and then he created man and woman so that they could be in relationship with each other. We are created for community in the beauty of the gospel of Christ. So, again, it takes hard work. It takes sacrifice. A lot of people are jumping into wedding ceremonies, and very few people really want to jump into a commitment of a marriage.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between the wedding night and years of marriage. Huge difference. I read this week, or last week, preparing for last Sunday. The average cost of a wedding ceremony and a reception in America right now is $27,000. That's the average cost. And our daughter is yet to get married. So I don't know how we're going to pay for that. But the average cost is $27,000. At the same time, premarital counseling will cost you on average with a licensed marriage therapist $500. And so few people want to spend $500, but they'll spend $27,000.
Right.
And I'll just say this, $500 for premarital counseling is a lot cheaper than divorce court.
Yes, it is. Spend the money and go to counseling.
Yeah, we all need it. All right. So here's what we want to do tonight. We want to talk about some keys to marriage. Not necessarily keys that we've come up with, but keys that we've experienced. Because we have been married for 28 years. We dated a lot of years before that. So we've actually been in a relationship for 35 years. Yeah. And we certainly don't have a perfect marriage, but we're kind of like Farmers Insurance Agency. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Yep. And we've experienced a thing or two. So let's just dive in with a few things. The first one is key number one to having a healthy marriage is that you have to understand that each person in the marriage, each other has needs. And you got to understand the other one's needs, the partner's needs, the spouse's needs. You have to understand those needs. I saw this the other day. Flowers don't want water. Flowers need water.
Yeah.
And so that's what a marriage is. It's a relationship that doesn't necessarily want things, but it needs things. It needs certain elements to it. And here's the crazy thing. Your needs are different than my needs.
Right.
There's a great book out there called His Needs, Her Needs.
Yep. It's a good one.
It's a good one. And it unpacks all of these needs that are different between a man and a woman.
Sure.
So let's talk about the top 3 needs of a woman. Now, not every woman will say those are my top 3.
Right. They vary.
They vary. And sometimes number 3 is number 1, and sometimes number 1 is number 3. But on a whole, these 3 needs tend to be the top 3 needs of a woman when it comes to the institution of marriage. The first one is this, is a woman needs security. And she doesn't need it from someone else other than her husband.
Right.
She needs security from her husband. What does that look like for you? For me to meet the need of security?
I think for a lot of people, they might say it's financial security, but I would elaborate on that it's not only that, but it's emotional security. That just to know that that you're safe and secure with your spouse, and your emotional health is safe with the spouse. And also that, for most women, they want to know that they're going to be taken care of and that they have a home over their head, food on the table, that, their husband's going to work and providing for their family.
Yeah. So with that in mind, when you were talking, it made me think about your dad and my relationship with your dad and how that was a really stressful relationship for me. It probably wasn't for him, but for me it was, because we didn't have a real strong, it wasn't a bad relationship. It just wasn't a strong relationship.
Right.
Like you have with my parents.
Yeah.
I didn't have that with your dad. And your dad, I think, being such old school, born in the 1920s, really struggled with me thinking that I wasn't going to take care of his daughter.
Right.
And that somehow, some way, I wasn't going to be a good man and a good husband to you. And it was only, like in the last 5 years of his life, when we had already been married and had 2 kids for several years, that he actually began to build a relationship with me. And I think the turning point for that, Sarah, was when he realized that you were secure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of his generation, and then maybe, the generation after his age, probably a lot of them, that's how they showed their love and security, was knowing that they were taking care of their family, taking care of their spouse financially because of the way they grew up and the struggles they went through.
So men, if you're watching tonight, write this down. It's your responsibility to bring security to your wife and to your home. And that may mean, for some women, that means you just come home.
Yeah. That's stable.
Yeah.
Stable and secure.
Yeah. And that you know where we are.
Right.
And we're open and honest and transparent about that. So security is number one.
Yeah.
Here's a second one. Affection.
Right.
Now, let's just clear the air right here, because affection to me is totally different than affection for you.
Yeah.
That's affection? Okay. All right. All right. So why is affection such a big deal?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of hard to put into work, just verbal form, but it makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel it also is an extension of security. I think that emotional security, when the affection is tied with that. And for most women, it's probably not going to be sex. It's hugs, kisses, just an arm around you, hold you when you're sad.
So you're talking about like affection that doesn't lead to a bedroom moment.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
That's good too.
Oh, okay. So I know as the older I get and the longer we've been married, I know that, every once in a while we'll be traveling in the car, whether it's a short trip or a long trip. And the way the Expedition or the Explorer is built, that the gear shift's there in the middle, and I'll put my arm on the console and then my hand on the gear shift, and you'll reach over and you'll take my hand. And, while you need affection, I have to say, as I get older, maybe I'm getting softer, I don't know, but that means a lot to me too. Yeah. That it's almost like you're saying, this is my man. This is my man. And is that the way it feels like when I take your hand?
Yes. And an extra part of that, affection, you show affection in public too. I mean, not be all over each other, but
no PDA.
Yeah, no PDA. Not that, but hold your wife's hand in public. Put your arm around her. It shows people that she belongs to you.
I got you. Yeah. Don't make your kids uncomfortable with it.
Right.
But sometimes when they get older, it's a lot of fun to make your kids uncomfortable. Yeah. So
and they need to see that from their parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Affection.
Here's what I've noticed, and here's what we've experienced. When we were dating, 17, 18, 19, 20, we couldn't wait to touch each other. Now, when I say that, come on, handle it with class. I'm talking about literally holding hands or putting my hand on your knee or my arm around you at the movies. We couldn't wait to see each other in the evenings or on the weekends so that we could express that affection.
Yeah.
And as you get older, that goes away. It tends to go away, that anticipation of it. So the longer you're together, the harder you have to work at being affectionate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So men,
absolutely.
Men, those wives need affection. And it's not necessarily always affection that leads to the bedroom.
Right.
But sometimes it can.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make that clear. Just want to get that out. All right. The third thing that we find that most women need in as far as their needs that they need met is communication.
Yeah.
Communication. Now
we're really good at this.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is some marriages are totally different than ours, because I know a lot of marriages where the guys just don't talk.
Right.
That's not an issue for us. I talk all the time. It's just what I'm a pastor. That's what I do. I talk all the time. But those of you that I am your pastor, then you go to Rock Creek, you need to understand there are times when I speak eloquently on a stage and I grunt when I get home.
Yeah. You've used all your words for the day and
Yeah.
you don't want to talk anymore.
Okay. So we've had conflict in our marriage over this communication thing. And that comes when you're trying to get me to listen to you, but I really know what the end thing's going to be is you need me to fix something for you.
Not always.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
sometimes women just want you to listen.
Yeah, but I just want to fix it.
That's because you're a man.
I don't need to talk about it for an hour. We can just go fix it. But that's the point.
And again, that's emotional security too. When you're listened to, and it brings value. It shows your spouse that she's valued when you listen to her words.
And actually, one of the ways to listen is not with your ears as much as it is with your eyes.
Yes. Put your phone down.
This isn't listening.
No,
Yeah,
it's
okay. All right.
not. No, you have to put the phone down and look at her.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's hard, especially in this day and age when there's like 4 different devices on.
It is hard, and it's if it's not something that you want to talk about, you really have to pay attention and be compassionate.
Yeah, so I want to be real sensitive when I say this, because I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, because it's not aimed at anybody.
Yeah.
But being in ministry now since 1993, pretty much our entire marriage. We were married 1 year before we moved into our first full-time vocational ministry position. I'm the type of pastor that I want to not only fix everything that you need fixed, I want to fix everything for everybody that's broken. Okay? And so in my early years of ministry, and even in the first 10 years of Rock Creek, probably the last 2 years I've been better at this than the previous 10, is that I would almost give attention to the broken needs of people, trying to fix that while ignoring the broken needs in my own home.
Right. Yeah.
And I've had to learn that my number one ministry, before it ever takes place at Rock Creek, is at our house.
Yes.
And that the greatest ministry I have is to my wife and my kids first. But the way I'm geared is I love people, and I want to salvage people's situations and issues. I'm going somewhere. I'm getting there. If it took 10 years for it to reach a train wreck, I'm not going to be able to fix it for you in 10 minutes.
That's true.
It didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. And so what I've had to learn is that there are some things I can do tomorrow. Because right now in this moment, my family needs me in the moment. They don't need me to put them off till tomorrow. They need me to minister to them in the moment. And so I want to say that in regards to our life, but I want to say that so that someone can relate to it, and especially men,
Right.
is that if it's been broken for 10 years, one conversation for 10 minutes isn't going to fix it.
No.
And we want to fix things instantaneously. And we live in an instantaneous society. We order food by number. We have computers that we hold in our hands that we make phone calls on, that we can find out anything at any time informationally. We cook food in an instant way versus the old days. And so we want things fast.
Yeah.
And when I look at people at our church that are seasoned, we'll call them that, seasoned. I don't call
Salt and pepper.
Yeah,
hair.
well, yeah. I don't call 70-year-olds old anymore.
No.
That used to be ancient, but that's young now. But when we see people in their 70s who have such a fruitful, wonderful marriage, and they just have so much peace, it seems like there's years of investment there. There's struggles there. Everybody sees the glory, but no one really knows the true story. And you just can't fix things that have been broken for years overnight. And I'll also say this, you have a need for communication, and as I get older and I get softer again, I have a need for communication. Yeah. And some of the best talks we have, and some of the most intimate moments, and when I say intimate, I'm not meaning bedroom intimate, I mean intimate, like open heart intimate, is when I really get honest. Do you remember the night when we were pressing really hard to get our building done, and the pressure of all of that was weighing on me, and I broke at home, and remember when I got real and raw? That was probably one of our most intimate moments in our entire marriage, when you just held me, and all I did was weep, because I was broken. I was a broken man, and I was crying out to God. And sometimes I think men, we think communication is going to allow people to know that we're real.
Weakness.
That there's still a little boy inside of all of us that hurts sometimes. And so I don't want you just to hear that women want to communicate, guys, and think that it's not a need for you, because I think it's both.
You said something just a few seconds ago about that it's an investment.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, a great financial return comes after little investments over the years, that it's not just, and it grows and gets bigger and more fulfilling rather than just one big lump sum that you deposit.
Yeah.
So your financial return is greater when you are investing small little bits over time.
Consistent.
And it grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
And your relationship will grow.
That's cool.
From that.
That's good. All right, so those are the top 3 needs of a woman in marriage: security, affection, and a communication.
And I'm sure you have needs as well.
I at least know one.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
How about honor and respect?
Yeah, so the dirty little word in Ephesians 5 that I get asked
The
so
S
many
word?
times. Yeah, the S word. When I do weddings now, people are like, "Hey, can you make sure you leave that out?" And that is, wives, submit to your own husbands. And as we are submitted to Christ and the church is submitted to him. But we read that and we forget that before all of that gets unpacked, the responsibilities of a man, the responsibilities of a woman, Ephesians 5:21 says submit to each other.
Yeah.
Out of reverence for Christ. So a healthy marriage is 2 people trying to out-submit each other. And so the word submit actually simply means, ladies, this is for you, respect, which
Right.
is another word for honor.
Sure.
So men have a desire, and I have it too, to be honored and respected.
Yeah.
And for instance, our kids, we have a boy and we have a girl. And we have to communicate with them totally different.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
not only are they different personalities, but they're different genders. And so Haley wants to hear, I love you, you're pretty, I think you're one of the most beautiful women in the world, and hugs and kisses on the cheek, that speaks volumes to her. If I told Ryder I think you're the most beautiful little boy in the world, he'd look at me like, do what? But if I say, Ryder, I'm proud of you, you're growing up to be a fine young man. Ryder, I notice how you're treating your girlfriend, and you're treating her, and you're honoring her and loving her well. Way to be a good man. Mm-hmm. See that showing honor and respect, and that makes him feel
makes him feel good.
Yeah, there's something inside a man that ignites when his woman shows him honor. Now, I'm not saying his woman like he owns her, but you're the woman in the marriage, and so
Right.
my woman, my wife, my spouse, she makes me feel strong inside and like a man, not just I'm a man, but a godly man, when honor and respect is shown.
Right. And how about honoring and respecting your spouse, even when they don't deserve it, when they fail, when something doesn't go the way they planned or you planned?
Yeah.
And
it's good.
You have to allow the mistakes to happen. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Well, I think we all go into marriage with expectations.
You learn from them.
Yeah. We all have expectations.
Right.
I've placed expectations on you. You've placed expectations on me. And there's been a lot of them that we didn't fulfill.
Right.
Because there's a big difference between expectation and reality.
Sure.
And so, I'm gonna disappoint you. I'm gonna fail you. And if you don't recognize that, then you're living in a fantasy world.
Sure. And it's not my job to nag you through any disappointment or failure. It's my job to still uphold that respect in place of honor that you hold in our home.
Well, at the end of the day, God's going to take care of me.
Sure.
He's going to handle it.
Yeah.
God's a big enough enforcer. Yeah. I don't need you to enforce me.
Yeah.
So, or be the enforcer in my life. He can handle me. And I mean, we're gonna make mistakes.
I've heard it said like this, that don't honor the man that he is, but honor the man you want him to be and treat him as such.
Yeah. And maybe he'll get there. That's pretty cool.
And God will take him along that path.
That's pretty cool.
Instead of you beating your husband down for any mistake or that he makes, or if he disappoints you, lift him up and communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it all ties together.
I said many years ago, back when we were meeting at NAVO, we did a marriage series. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was called I Will, I Do, or I Do, I Will, What Have I Done?
What have I done?
Yeah. And I think I said that, especially when it comes to women, that I could tell by visiting with a woman in our church how she's treated at home.
I remember that.
How she carries herself with confidence or with a lack of self-esteem. Yeah. And it's the same with a man. You can tell when a man's been beat down. And, we get beat down all day by the world. The last thing we need is to be beat down by our wife.
You want to come home, and your home to be your safe place.
Yeah.
Which
I want to be the king of your double wide trailer.
Yeah, you need my support.
Yeah. The home should be my palace.
Yeah.
Not that you're there to serve me, but it's a safe place. It's our palace. And as the man of the house, I earn the honor and the respect, but it has to be shown. So
yes. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I would say that's my number one need, is to feel that inside.
Yeah. I know that you don't want to come home and the first thing you hear out of my mouth is me griping at you about something when you've had a long, hard day, or you want to come home and be shown honor and respect.
Yeah.
But
you don't do that. You never have done that, but just the way you keep our home. Just little things, just making sure that there's Pringles in the pantry, stuff like that. Little Debbie snack cakes. You just have always made our house a home.
We've been together long enough and made the investments in one another that I know your triggers, things that might give you stress if you were to come home and the house was chaos and stuff everywhere. That stresses you out because you need order.
Clutter kills me.
Yeah. You're a person of order and structure. And so I try to keep things.
By the way, I've been meaning to talk to you about the office at the house.
It is a mess.
You need to, anyway. I would really feel...
That's not the office. It's my craft room.
It's my office. It's my home office. I would feel really honored if you'd get the clutter out of there. So that's a big one. But there's others. Yeah.
And I would feel the affection if you would help me clean that up.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah.
So you have another need that's top of the list for most men, I bet.
I bet
Maybe
you're talking about sex. Yeah. Yeah, well, it changes through the years. There was probably a season in my life where that was number 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, and now we'll get to number 2. But now I'm 50, and it's still in need, but it's probably not where it was when I was 25, but absolutely. There's not a man listening that would tell you that that's not in their top 3. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Do you remember what my grandma told you the night of our wedding?
I do. Can I say it?
I don't think we ought to say it, but she had 8 children. Let's just leave it at that. But you were in your dressing room with your bridesmaids, and my grandmother came in and wished you a wonderful life and a happy wedding day. And then she said, you be a woman in the day and something else.
Be your lady in public.
Yeah. And we'll just stop right there.
And be your
something else.
blank in the bedroom.
And you'll have a happy marriage. And she had 8 kids. So, hey, I guess she knew what she was talking about. But, she was raised old school, and that's what she was taught. And she shared that with you. And I didn't know.
As she left, my eyes were this big around, like, Grandma just said that.
And I didn't know she told you that for years. And then you told me she said that. But And I want to say this. I think it's very important men understand that in your need your need of sex, it isn't what you've heard betrayed or seen betrayed in media, movies, or something you've seen.
Reality versus expectations again.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll say this, the best sex starts in the kitchen in the morning. That's where it starts. It's not instantaneous either.
For men, it can be instantaneous.
Yeah.
Women are like a crock pot.
I'm talking about great sex.
Yeah.
It's not instantaneous. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's the old saying is a man is a microwave and a woman is a crock pot. She has to heat up all day, and a man can heat him up in 1 minute. So that's a great need, and so we see that men and women both have needs. Sometimes they crisscross; they're the same. Sometimes they're not. But in a lot of occasions, they're two totally different things. So, again, a flower doesn't want water. A flower needs water. So we have needs in marriage, and we need to fulfill those needs. The second key to a healthy marriage is how to talk to each other. How to have not just the quantity of communication, but quality. And Gary Chapman wrote a book many, many years ago called The 5 Love Languages. And I know there's probably so many people that have read that book or know about that book, but we all have love languages.
Right.
And, your love languages change through the years. And I have to constantly keep up with that.
It's like a game.
Yeah, define what is our love language today.
And you have to communicate with me to find out what it is.
Yes, yes. And usually my love language is...
With you?
Yeah.
Sex?
Oh, I don't know. You just said it. I'll let everybody else try to figure that out. But here's the thing with love languages, and the reason why we have to speak love languages, the correct one to each other, is because we all have a love tank. Mm-hmm. And for women, the love tank is really, really big. The tank itself is big. It takes a lot to fill the tank.
Right.
But it also has a huge hole in the bottom of it, which means the tank leaks out really fast. So those love languages has to be spoken constantly, whether it's acts of kindness, whether it's acts of service, whether it's words of affirmation, whether it's physical touch, whatever that love language is, you really have to do that a lot. You have to pour that on a lot because it leaks. For a man, the love tank is a lot smaller. And the hole in it is a lot smaller. Mm-hmm. So it tends to, once it's filled up, it stays filled up for quite some time. There was an old joke about a guy who his wife said, "You never tell me you love me anymore." This was like after 40 years of marriage. And he said, "I told you I loved you on our wedding day, and when I stop, I'll let you know." That is not the key to a healthy marriage because her love tank can run dry really fast.
That does not work for ladies.
That's right. So key number 2 is how to talk to each other. You've got to have open lines of communication.
And along with that, it's the way you talk to one another too, especially for women. If you're talk negatively to or talk down to, that it sucks out of the tank really, really quick, and it takes a whole lot more positives to negate that and to fill that tank back up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Especially, it's probably the same for some men too. If you're not honored and respected, that's going to cause your tank to leak.
Yeah. Words hurt.
Yeah.
And I know there's been times in our marriage, more when we were younger in our marriage, where things were said, words were used, that it took a long, long time, even though I said I'm sorry. And I tried to regain trust and mend those wounds. Words are a weapon, and they build worlds or they tear down worlds. Sure. And so, yeah.
I could say to you, that was the best message on Sunday I've ever heard. Or I could say, what were you thinking? That was terrible.
Well, part of honoring me is you tell me it was good, whether it was good or not.
Yes.
You always praise me. You always lift me up. You always say, "Hey, that was great." Now, I know when it was really great because you say that was one of your best ones ever. That was really amazing. And so that's a little bit of a different, that was really good. And I know when, maybe it was good, but I wasn't at the best that I could be. whatever the issue was that day. A lot of times it might just be me, depending on my own abilities rather than God's in that moment. But you have always done that for me. You have always said, I guess I'll say it this way, every man needs a pat on the rear with an attaboy. And that's because we all longed for that from our fathers.
Yeah.
Attaboy. You did a good job. And so that's a longing for that. And that's a love language right there for me, is that's words of affirmation. There's another key. And this one is the one that I see really where people get really stuck in their marriage, and that's conflict resolution.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Well, the nature of marriage is a mystery. The Bible says it's a mystery. Paul clearly says that it is a mystery. The fact that two people so completely different anatomically as well as emotionally and DNA can be attracted to each other in such an amazing way, but then when they get to marry, can attack each other in such incredible ways.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's going to be conflict.
God has a sense of humor.
Yes, he does.
It's very funny.
Yeah. So there's going to be conflicts in a marriage. There's just going to be. Where do you want to go eat? I don't know. Well, then you pick something and you're like, I don't want to go here. Well, if you didn't want to go here, why didn't you tell? Yeah, simple things like that, all the way to financial struggles, struggle with kids, struggle with parents, all kinds of things. Conflict resolution. There's trust that's lost and has to be regained. So here's a couple things I would throw out there is that one of the ways to help in conflict resolution is to remove unspoken expectations. Remove assumptions. Assuming does, it makes out of you and me. So there's a lot of assumptions in marriage, and usually those assumptions will lead to conflict. So just remove them. I mean, have we ever dealt with that?
Oh, just a little bit.
Where?
Sure. I mean, we all bring expectations that we don't communicate with the other person into marriage just because you think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Or like even doing things together, like putting something together or hanging a picture or all kinds of things is where,
You remember our kids' swing set? That was fun.
It was in my sermon last week. I gave that illustration of you bringing the swing set home that you got on sale for almost nothing because it was a demo and they took it apart, but they didn't give you any directions to put it back together.
Right.
You just assumed that I was a man and I knew how to put a swing set together. That was a day for the books in the backyard that day.
We didn't communicate at the best level that day.
I'm glad there were no video cameras in the backyard that day. So that leads to that with conflict resolution, word choices and word tone and the way we speak to each other is so important. So you got needs. The woman has a need, men have a need. How we talk to each other, how we resolve conflicts, and go ahead.
I'm sorry. And we all communicate differently as far as men and women, but each individual person communicates differently based on their different personality that they have. So I think a great idea for a lot of people would be to do some kind of personality profile or an assessment to see what type of personality you have, and then you learn how to talk to one another.
Yeah. How to address the issues.
Yeah, because you can say something to another man that is totally something you don't operate that way. Same thing with a woman. Each woman is different, and she may not operate the same way. So
unpacking that just a little bit so that everybody can kind of understand what you're getting at, because I know what you're talking about, but not everybody does.
Yeah.
So, there's like a disc profile, there's a leader profile, there's a golden.
Sure. I think most people probably heard of the disc or the red, yellows, greens, and blues.
Okay, so how that works is I am an I. I'm a yellow with D, which is dominant, red. So I'm an ID. You are a C with S. C is details, rule keeper. S is harmony, agenda. You desire for everybody to play well with each other and get along, and when there's conflict, you kind of get a little bit tense. I'm a dreamer with dominant. I don't like details. I don't color inside the lines. I don't follow the rules. A C is a complete rule follower, colors inside the lines. Now, there are things as well, though, with you being a C, which is a detail-oriented person and coloring inside the lines, yet you love clutter. And I'm a big dreamer, but I hate clutter. So it even crosses waves
Yeah.
there. It's crazy. But I have to know that you have to have every detail about what we're going to do and where we're going and before we ever leave.
Like notes for a podcast.
Yes, 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 like notes here on the podcast. But I can just fly.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I can build a plane while it's in the air. You've got to have all the knowledge not only about the plane, but how to fly the plane before you take the plane off. And
Right.
so that is the dynamic of how we have to learn
And
to
is
communicate.
everybody going to like the plane?
Yeah. Is everybody going to be happy? Are we going to serve the right snacks? And
Yeah.
just get on the plane and go with me. Trust me, we got this. Trust me. And so that in itself is a picture of how we have to communicate.
Yeah.
And when we don't communicate that way, conflict resolution is tough. Beyond the fact that I talk in blue and you talk in pink, and I hear in blue and you hear in pink.
Absolutely.
So when I say I have nothing to wear, it actually means I haven't done laundry. When you say I have nothing to wear, what does that mean to you?
Either nothing fits or I'm tired of the clothes that are in the closet and I want something new.
So that means you're going to go shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So two totally different things. All right. We got to get to the last one because we've been long tonight. The last key to marriage is this. Out of all of those things that we've talked about, everything has to be built on the foundation of Jesus Christ. Okay. Now I talked about this last Sunday. There's a parable that Jesus tells about two different men. One builds his house on a rock. One builds his house on the sand. And the storms come. And we know that the one that was built on a firm foundation, the house stood in the storm. The one was built on the sand, it was destroyed. That's a parable that can be used and applied in many different ways. But in regards to marriage, I want to say it to you this way. I said it Sunday. I want to reiterate it tonight. It's not if storms come. It's when storms come. Because Jesus tells the parable from the perspective that storms will happen, not if they happen.
Right.
So none of this is going to work. Conflict resolution, meeting each other's needs, none of that is ever really going to truly work without your marriage being built on the firm foundation of Jesus Christ. Because storms will come. And when storms come, you have a decision to make. You can either turn and run or you can turn to Jesus. It's much easier to turn to Jesus if he's already there than to try to find him in the middle of a storm. And so we have been through some storms.
Yeah.
Some storms we've been through, we caused. Most of them I caused. We've been,
Okay.
yeah. We've been through storms that we didn't cause.
Right.
We've been through the storm of burying your father and your mother. You've lost both your parents. We've been through that storm. We've been through storms with our children, with health issues, with Ryder in particular. 2 hospital moments with him.
Yep.
One, he was in Children's Medical Hospital in Plano for 8 days. These were storms. We went through a storm that was a literal storm when hailstones the size of softballs hit our house back in like 2011. Yeah. Right at the time when Ryder had his appendix rupture and we didn't know it.
Yep.
And so we've been through storms and we've come out on the other side a little weathered,
Right.
but stronger.
Right. It's character.
It's character. And while some of those storms would have wrecked some people's lives and their marriages, it actually made ours better because we grew closer in those times of adversity because we had one common denominator that we knew that no matter how bad this storm got, he was going to be firm. He wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
And we didn't have to search for him.
Right.
He was already there.
Yeah.
Because he was a priority, and that was Christ.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage you tonight. The key to a healthy marriage is to build your marriage on the firm foundation of Jesus Christ. Then beyond that, do the work that only you can do. Jesus tells us clearly how to do it. He shows us how to do it. But we have to be willing to put in the work. Marriage is hard work.
Yes.
It's not easy,
Not easy.
but it's fulfilling.
Right. Right. And you said something in your message a couple of weeks ago that work on yourself and be the person that God wants you to be rather than trying to change your spouse.
Yeah. What if God is not trying? What if instead of trying to fix everything and everyone else, God really wants to fix you? That was I think that was the phrase, and that's the key. You be right with God, and it'll be amazing how God makes everything right. Good?
Good.
Good.
I like it.
That was awesome. Thank you for coming in and
Thanks
hanging
for
out
letting
with
me.
me. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining in. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I so enjoyed just visiting with Sarah about the things that we've experienced in life. Join us next week, same time, same channel. We'll see you soon. God bless.
Good night.